Travel, especially to faraway locations, is a privilege. Exploring new countries, cultures, ideas, and adventures is one of the greatest experiences in life. It's no surprise then that most of us want to capture our experience for posterity. And never before in history have we had such phenomenal access to photo and video equipment that allows us to record our adventures in such remarkable detail. If you want to create stunning travel videos, then this video is not for you. Yeah, that's right. You see, because you generally have a choice to make when you travel. Do you want to spend most of your vacation being an unpaid professional videographer? Or do you want an actual vacation? Because for most of us, you can't have both. So travel vloggers and influencers, this video isn't for you. Bye-bye. All right, they gone? Perfect. You see, people like you and I, even though I make a living as a filmmaker, I'd rather have my vacations be actual vacations. And if you have a camera out the entire time, you're quite literally not being present, and that's not a vacation. But that's not to say recording our experience doesn't have any value. For example, travel and landscape photography is one of my favorite recreational activities. So how do we solve this? What do we do when we want to take pictures or record moments without losing our vacation, or to have to come home with just terabytes of content that only just creates more work for us? That is what this video is all about. My girlfriend and I recently traveled to Portugal for a short 1-week vacation. I'm going to use this experience as a case study to show you how you can use some great new tools to get outstanding footage with a minimally invasive experience. I'm also going to show you how I approach my travel photography and videography. This is especially for those of you who want to put your personal experience first and yet be able to walk away with footage that actually represents the magic of what you experienced firsthand. On this particular sojourn, I was very fortunate to take some exciting new gear with me: the Insta360 Ace Pro Action Camera, 2 new products from DJI, the Osmo Pocket 3 and the Mini 4 Pro drone. With me, as always, was my Fujifilm X-H2S and my iPhone 14 Pro. My intent is to show you when each tool is the right tool to use. Sometimes it's a dedicated device, and sometimes it's my phone or my camera. I want to show you what each one of these are like to use and which is better for what. As for the phone, yes, I'm well aware there's a newer iPhone now, and yes, there are very good Android phones, etc., etc., etc. The exact phone doesn't matter so much here. I'm using the tool that I have to tell a story. You should know what your phone can or can't do. Some will perform better than what I have, others worse. There's also many great travel camera options, far better than the pro body of my X-H2S. If you're curious about which travel cameras I recommend, I've listed them in the description below. Travel videos aren't a representation of reality. Like most great stories, the goal is to sell the romanticism. And to do that, it's equally, if not more important, about what you leave out than what you include. Because we all know, real traveling is great, but it isn't always so glamorous. It's a lot of walking, more walking, climbing, looking for washrooms, waiting in airports, more climbing, getting lost, arguing.
You're annoying.
More walking, lots of driving, lots of traffic, more arguing, sometimes good weather, but often bad weather, most often good food, but not always good coffee, some great museums, but also some boring ones.
That was underwhelming.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get your travel partner to hold a camera.
Is it recording?
Sometimes they think you and your ideas are stupid, and they hate you.
I'm leaving, I'm f***ing soaked! F*** you!
But if you're lucky, or you plan well, sometimes you get great shots. The point is, to make really beautiful travel content, you always have to be shooting. And you have to plan your trip around shooting the right things at the right time of day. But as I think I've shown here, without compromising your schedule or your experience, you can get some really great stuff with very little effort. To show you how to do this, Let me first show you how I used all the things that I brought. I traveled to Portugal with only carry-on luggage. My goal was not to make my trip about gear management or paying excessive baggage fees. I used the Nanook 35-liter NPVD bag for my gear and for some clothing. I love these bags. They're great for organizing and protecting all my gear, including my computer. I also brought an old 25-liter backpack for everything else, but also to use as a day bag. I also threw in my fanny pack for when I wanted to be minimal. Are there better ways to do this? Probably yes, but everyone has different needs and access to equipment, so you do you, all right? Here are some additional items that I brought that I think you should consider as well. Number one is my Anker battery pack. This is really, really important if you are going to be away from a power source for most of the day. This should charge just about every imaging device that I have at least once or twice. I also brought a few plug adapters and voltage converters. Now, you don't need voltage converters with most electronics because it's built in, but I've had them forever, so they're kind of like an overkill plug adapter at this point. Insta360 also provided both a standalone selfie stick and a multi-use Frankenstein selfie stick tripod thing, which I actually quite like. There's also a suction cup mount, and I also brought a magic arm, which I never used, and ND filters for my camera. All right, my lenses were my 8mm 3.5, it's my pride and joy, 18 to 55, and a 50 to 140. After I settled into this trip, I found that this was my modus operandi. I would use my camera for medium shot photographs, leaving the 18 to 55 on most of the time, which keeps it relatively compact. For wide angle shots, I would most often just use the widest lens on my iPhone. The Osmo Pocket 3 was the hero for most of my walking around video. I also used the Ace Pro for some walking shots, but also just for placing on my dash while driving. I probably would have used the Ace Pro more if I was doing more adventurous things. I didn't fly the drone too often, but I tried to choose the right time to fly it, when I thought the location offered dramatic shots or helped tell the story of our trip. I want to quickly talk about how filming your trip can be an invasive experience for you and your travel partners, and really for the people around you. There are certainly places in this world that have lost a lot of their charm because it's just a horde of humans with cell phones and cameras out. The inverse can also be invasive, where it's just a serene and beautiful location and then all eyes are on you, the one person vlogging your way through it. As creators, I also believe that we have to be respectful of others' experience and not always make it about getting the best footage. More than anything, I also prefer to go rather unnoticed. The two most invasive tools are drones and the dreaded selfie stick. So I really try to minimize the use of them. The minute you pull out the drone, the whole trip comes to a halt for you and your partner until that little mosquito is back on the ground. It's also invasive to those around you. So I try to use it in remote settings or getting high enough so that it's going to be out of earshot. And that's one of the things that I really love about the DJI Mini drones compared to their larger drones, which also require a license. The smaller minis are remarkably quiet, especially when they are 40 or more feet away. And let's talk about selfie sticks for a second. Full transparency, I f***ing hate them. I loathe seeing them, and I loathe being seen with them even more. But I have to admit that they are great for some things. Now, I try to be as quick and discreet with them as possible. They work amazingly well with the DJI Osmo Pocket, allowing you to create beautiful crane shots or fake drone shots. By using the companion app, you can fully control the Osmo 3 while it's high above. The gimbal and the tracking feature on the Osmo make this outrageously easy to get beautiful shots with no experience. My advice is, when you're around a lot of people, to operate quickly, get the shot, and then move on. Now, let's talk about using the phone. Smartphone imaging is getting better and more powerful every year. I actually love using my phone because, as the saying goes, the best camera you have is the one that you have with you. But it is unlikely to ever completely replace a dedicated camera for me. Not because of the image quality, but for two far more important reasons. See, your phone is your guide and your safety tool while you travel. Its core function is to give me directions, do research, purchase items, and of course, as your only form of communication. The more you use it as a camera, the more you eat up the battery. The second reason is form factor. Sometimes it's easy to get a shot, but most often it's not so easy to hold on to. And yes, you can use a gimbal, a handle, or a phone holder, but then that sleekness of it, well, that's what makes it so convenient, and that's now gone. The best use, as I mentioned, was just to open up the camera for a quick wide shot and then return to my Maps app, or just simply slip it back into my pocket. I much prefer to hold the Osmo Pocket or the Ace Pro because they produce amazing quality footage and are easy to hold on to and quite discreet. Now, before I tell you about where I think these tools are best used, I want to show you how they all kind of compare. First, image fidelity. The Osmo lets you shoot in either regular video, HDR video, or log, which requires some color grading ability but captures the maximum dynamic range. The Ace Pro can shoot in several picture styles, but I chose flat, which isn't log, but it gives you more wiggle room. I use the new Blackmagic Designs camera app on my iPhone. It's a free app, it's awesome. My phone shoots 10-bit 422, but not in log, that's only on the 15, although the Filmic Pro app, which I think actually gives you better image quality, but it's just harder to use. You can also get log for that if you pay for it. Either way, the Blackmagic app gives you much better image quality, I think, and more control than the iPhone's native camera app. Resolution-wise, the 360 reigns supreme. It is an 8K sensor, but it works best in 4K. Its clarity zoom punches in 2 times, but maintains 4K by utilizing the 8K sensor. Here is a 4K resolution test between all of the cameras. Not all resolutions are created equal. Resolution isn't going to save you if what you really need is a longer lens. The Ace Pro has a field of view equivalent to a full-frame 16mm, whereas the Pocket 3 has a 20mm equivalent field of view. And for that reason, these little cameras just simply cannot replace my Fujifilm with dedicated glass. I could never get video like this with any of the other devices I had with me. Any interchangeable lens camera is going to offer you the most cinematic images and the most control over your framing, but at the cost of big gear and managing multiple lenses, often needing tripods and extensive care taken to manage dust on the lenses and the sensor. In low light, both the Pocket 3 and the Insta360 Ace Pro have a low light mode, and both are outstanding, especially compared to the iPhone. But the Pocket 3 comes out with the cleanest and sharpest low light image. All of these cameras offer time-lapse, but the Pocket can do a motion lapse, allowing you to program the camera's gimbal to move during the time-lapse. When it comes to sound recording, all devices are compatible with external microphones, but if you want to remain minimal and spontaneous, onboard audio needs to be good. Okay, so let's talk about audio quality. Chances are you're not going to be vlogging, but if you are vlogging and you don't have an external mic, this is kind of what you can expect. Now we've got some ambient noise, we've got crowds, we've got birds, we've got a musician playing over here. So how much does it focus on your voice versus the environmental voice? And then how much of the environmental voice do you want? These are all personal questions, depends on the situation. But let's run through each camera just so you get a sense of what a mirrorless camera would sound like. So this is my XH2S right here. And I'm just gonna sort of speak in the general direction of all these cameras. So you get a sense of what this is going to sound like. Now this is the DJI Pocket 3. Again, the DJI Pocket 3 actually comes with a version that comes with a lavalier mic, a wireless lavalier mic that drastically improves sound. So if that's really important to you, you know, that's a great option with that camera, and you can get lavaliers for any one of these things, obviously, but that's a product that actually comes with it. And the Insta360, this is an action camera like a GoPro, but it does have a flip screen, the first action camera that I've seen with a flip screen, and it has 2 audio modes, 3 audio modes actually, but let's talk about these 2 ones in particular. One is it's just going to be a low wind cut noise, so perfect for action cameras because when you're riding your bike or skiing or whatever you're doing, it's going to generate a lot of wind. And so that's the setting that you're going to want to use for that. And then it also has a directional mode. And the directional mode allows you just to record audio that's kind of in front of the camera. So perfect for vlogging or any time that you just want to focus on the audio that's just in front of this camera. And lastly, we have my iPhone 14 Pro here. And with a lot of cell phones, there's a lot of options. I'm using the Blackmagic app. There's also front and back microphones. So a lot of variety. That you could improve the audio quality on this possibly as well, but I'm using the front-facing camera, so presumably it's going to use an appropriate microphone for front-facing and vlogging or whatever the case is. But the idea here again is not necessarily getting audio that it's professional sounding, just kind of good enough for you to throw a little video together yourself. And like, as long as it's not terrible, if it's just good and then you capture the environment and the sounds of the environment, I think that's really all you really need. In terms of ease of use, it was the Osmo Pocket 3, hands down. It does everything. It turns on super fast, and it should be easy to operate for just about anybody. This is on top of how discreet it can be or how comfortable it is to hold. The fact that its stability and active track features means you can shoot footage and never really even have to look at the screen, allowing you to be just fully present during your vacation. There are a couple things that I really do love about the 360 that's worth mentioning. It has a quick shot mode, so you never really have to turn the camera on. You just see something worth shooting and you press record, it auto turns on, as it does when you hit cut by auto shutting off. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I also love the flip screen that I use less for, shooting myself, but more for being able to be discreet so that I can kind of hold the camera to my chest like this, like a street photographer would. Now keep in mind that the Ace Pro is primarily an action camera, not a travel camera per se. If you are just after an action camera that's also very waterproof, this might be the best option at the time of this video's release. Using it on a selfie stick though won't give you the cinematic options that the Osmo does, but you can take out the stick in post through their app. I suspect it's a bit of trial and error, as the one time I tried it, it also removed part of my legs. Overall though, my favorite setup was to walk around with my fanny pack, which held my cleaning cloths, wind jacket, and my action cameras. Bringing my drone meant bringing my backpack, which also allowed me to bring my charger, water, snacks, an extra jacket, and really anything else that I needed. But it could be exhausting after a while, and so I much preferred going lighter when given the chance. Let's use this moment to talk about drones for a second. Just in case you're new to the whole game, there are two types of drones, those above 250 grams and those below, like the DJI Mini series. Anything above 250 grams will require a pilot's license or a special permit in the country that you are flying. I assure you the license requirement is not a money grab. I have firsthand seen large drones used improperly to the point where they became a deadly weapon that nearly cost somebody's life. The reason that you do not need a license for the minis is because even if they hit somebody, it's small enough to minimize damage to humans or property. But there are still rules. First off, you absolutely need to do research about the local regulations around drone use where you are traveling. For example, most national parks worldwide prohibit drone use without a special use permit that could take months to acquire, if possible at all. Additionally, you are not allowed to ever fly over crowds because the potential for injury becomes exponential. Most often, there will also be a ceiling with your height. It's possible to bypass this, but it can absolutely land you in hot water, especially within 20 to 50 kilometers of an active airport. Once you've complied with all the rules that are meant to keep people safe and you out of court, here is some other advice. When shooting around coastlines, keep weather and wind direction in mind. Strong winds will overwork your drone, minimizing its runtime, and especially around lakes where winds can more likely overpower a small drone, making it impossible for you to reach back to land. Modern drones are intelligent and will force a return to home when it reaches a certain low battery level. You can, of course, override this if you're willing to chance it, but chancing this over open water is probably not wise. For example, while shooting surfers in Peniche, I overrode the RTH to sneak one more shot and then beelined it for the beach because I was certain it would force land before it reached me. And I was right. I was likely seconds away from losing the drone to the Atlantic Ocean. Flying over water always makes me nervous because there is no saving your drone if something goes wrong. So is flying in a city. But here's what I love about the Mini 4 Pro. It has full obstacle avoidance. It will either stop or go around the obstacles. You can turn it off if you want to risk flying it through some tight spaces, but I always quickly turn it back on as soon as possible. The Mini 4 Pro is also amazing because it has object tracking. I can select a person or a vehicle, and as long as the object isn't traveling at a super high speed, it tracks it very well. Now, I tried to have it track a vehicle through the narrow streets of Lisbon, but they provided a bit of a challenge for the drone. Once, of course, it was out in the open, it worked very well. And it's a great feature for those with little drone flying experience. Top that off with the introduction of log picture profile, a low light mode, and 4K 120. Man, this drone really has it all. For users who want to get the best footage, I also encourage you to buy neutral density filters for the drone and some extra batteries. The last point I want to make involves international travel. North America runs on the 60 Hz power system with alternating current, while Europe and many other countries operate on 50 Hz. So if your camera is set to the North American frame rates, you're going to see some flicker in those lights. All cameras should allow you to shoot in either mode by choosing frame rates, divisible or multiples of your frequency. Okay, with all this technical advice and anecdotes out of the way, I want to spend the last part of this video sharing with you my approach to travel photography and video. This is not advice strictly speaking, because there are just so many ways to approach this topic, and there are legitimate travel shooters out there who you should be learning from before me. I'm just going to explain how I approach it, and you can glean whatever it is you wish. My hope is, though, that it helps you to take better photos and videos. When it comes to photos, I have a few rules. If I look at something and I find it interesting, I don't overthink it. I grab my camera and I shoot it. I'll figure out later why I found it interesting. Your instinct is your best guide to making you happy with your photos. If you like it, shoot it. The next thing is, I think a lot about mathematics in my frame. I consider it when I'm shooting and in post. It takes some experience and instinct, but I'm looking into dividing my frame up into thirds, halves, quarters, and so on. Thirds being the most common. I'm also looking at symmetry, or dividing the frame up in other axes as well. Asking yourself, what is the subject of my photo, but what else can inform the image? In this image of a rock pillar in Peniche, I wanted to show the symmetry and center focus of the pillar, which communicates its strength and resilience, but also show the power of the sea in the foreground and its isolation within the sea. I'm looking for leading lines, lines that point to something, either drawing you to a distant horizon or to a central part of the frame. I want to exploit the geometry of the location. I'm also looking for frames within a frame. Your display is a frame, but then an object can be another frame. Frames within a frame create symmetry and draw the viewer's eyes to the subject. When possible, I like to anchor the photos with humanity. A person gives the location scale, tells the audience about how humans interact with it, and connects us to its authentic moment in time. If I'm ever unsure about framing, I will frame wider, especially for social or web, where you often have enough resolution to reframe in post. So I will make some of those mathematical framing choices in post, even if I didn't make them in camera. Now, video is a bit tougher because your shot is only as good as the shot that comes before or after. The pacing of the edit, the audio, the music, all of this can make a great shot terrible and a bad shot great. Don't let that intimidate you, though. I have a trick to show you shortly, but first here is some basic shots to help you tell your story better. Again, as with photo, if you like what you're seeing, whether it's architecture, a street scene, a musician, a nature scene, a restaurant, whatever, shoot it. Number 2, framing for video works best in 2 simple forms, either center framed or framed in thirds. The Osmo active tracking feature makes this a breeze. You'll start with your subject either in the center or at one of the thirds. Activate tracking and let the gimbal keep your subject in the same place. This is exactly what we do in narrative filmmaking. The subject generally stays where they are in the frame regardless of their relationship with the camera. Number 3 is to reveal information over time. Shooting video means that your camera motion should tell a story by revealing information throughout the shot. I want to start by showing the setting, then revealing the subject within that setting, or have your subject enter or exit the frame. Something needs to change in your shot, and most shots should tell a story between start and cut. The next would be how the foreground provides context and parallax. For example, instead of shooting just buildings, shoot the buildings with a railing or trees in front or in the foreground. Foregrounds can also be revealed or can disappear. Foreground also offers parallax, that sense that what's closest moves at a different speed than what's further away. Number 5 is to hold your shots longer. Most people often don't hold shots long enough. So hit record and then count to 10 at minimum. 20 is even better. Or if you're short on time, shoot in slow motion to buy each shot more time. maybe you don't need to edit these videos. Maybe it's just for your memories or to post one clip at a time in your social media stories. Guys, there is no right or wrong way to do it. However, if you do want to start from zero, both DJI and Insta360 offer an auto edit feature. Sometimes it works kind of great, other times not so much. It takes a bit of trial and error, and it also forces its template style. But it's a great solution when you're short on time or new to video. And that is it for today. I really loved traveling with all of these tools, and I found myself reaching for that Osmo Pocket 3 more than any other. It wasn't necessarily the best device, but it was certainly the most resourceful in this situation. As fun as creating memories can be, remember to not let it actually get in the way of enjoying where you are. Those moments in time are precious, and nothing, not even a photograph or a video, can replace real experiences and real memories. As always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this and comment in the comment section down below. Para mí, por enquanto, terminé. Paz.